Today's video is about stonewalling. I'll be discussing the definition of stonewalling, how it comes up, and what it looks like in during conflict between couples, and the harmful effects of stonewalling and how to prevent it. So stonewalling, I mean, it's a metaphor. Imagine a stone wall, right, erected between you and your spouse. Okay, if there's a wall there, obviously there's no communication going back and forth. It's just it's a metaphor for withdrawing. Okay, so it's stonewalling is when someone completely withdraws from a conflict discussion and no longer responds to their partner. So it usually happens when you're feeling flooded or emotionally overwhelmed. In this state, you may be discussing an issue, you're disagreeing, there's a misunderstanding, and the conflict is escalating. There may be other negative behaviors in the conflict, like criticizing each other, personally attacking each other, or becoming defensive, reversing the blame, counterattacking, and victimizing yourself. All these negative traits coming up in the conflict, the conflict escalates. And what happens here when it escalates, you become flooded. Flooded means that you are flooded with your own adrenaline, right? Because your heart rate would reach 100 beats per minute or above. And in this state, there's hormones released into your bloodstream. Okay. And this is adrenaline, and this is, in this state, you can even be triggered with the fight and flight response, right? Some people, they go to a state of tunnel vision, where their brain actually, they're so overwhelmed and the heart rate is above 100 beats a minute, and now they're flooded. They are escalated, and their brain, some parts of the brain has shut down, and you're not able to listen to your spouse here. You're not able to really, actively listen, to try to, see things from their point of view and try to empathize with them, and, all those beneficial skills that you should be applying when you're disagreeing. In this state, it becomes very hard to do that, right? Your mind just goes to like this tunnel vision, and all you can see is, to win, to attack, and it is a type of fight and flight response, where you either fight and you become very angry, aggressive, or flight is where you just completely shut down. So this is pretty much what's happening on a physiological perspective with our bodies when we are escalated. In that moment, in that state, you're not in a position to be communicating during conflict. You don't have the faculties to be functioning well in that time. Okay, so I'll explain something very important now. Some people confuse stonewalling with the silent treatment. Okay, silent treatment. We all know what the silent treatment is. They may seem similar, but they are completely different. Okay, so stonewalling is, like we said, you're trying to communicate, you're trying to get your point across, you're trying to resolve a problem, but you don't know how. It's not working out, right? And it's made you escalated and flooded, but you still love your spouse. You still want a conflict resolution, whatever, right? You still want closeness, but in that time, it's not working out for you, right? There might be a need to win approach, or you want to prove your point, you want to have the last say. That's what stonewalling is. It's not healthy. It's not good. It is actually damaging to your relationship, but it's different to the silent treatment. The silent treatment, the main difference between the silent treatment and stonewalling is the intention, right? So the intention of stonewalling is, I am going to punish you by invalidating your very existence. I'm going to punish you, teach you a lesson by invalidating your very existence, and I will not resume to validate you, or I won't talk to you. I won't consider you here in front of me until I believe that you've learned your lesson. You know, that is emotional abuse, right? That is the silent treatment. We're not talking about that. If you do that, you need to stop doing that. Okay. To try to tell your spouse that, I'm going to be completely disregarding you during this silent treatment is a form of emotional abuse. Okay. So stonewalling is, it doesn't have that intention. It doesn't have the intention of, I want to punish you. Stonewalling is, how it can show up is something as simple as, let's say you're arguing, you and your spouse, and it's not going well. Stonewalling is as simple as just going like this, looking away. They're still there, but you're just not listening. You've shut down, right? You're trying to avoid this conflict pretty much, or you're trying to even soothe yourself in that time, right? So you might just be looking away. You might be, and this is a bad thing to do, is to pick up your phone while your partner's talking to you, and they might be yelling and shouting, and you just pick up your phone and you're not listening to them. This is what stonewalling looks like. It's very bad as well. It's not healthy. Okay. Or it could be leaving the room, storming out of the room, swearing at each other, or what have you. There's different ways of how stonewalling comes up, but to give you that example, that it could be as simple as, or as subtle as, just looking away while your partner is talking. So that's how it looks like. Obviously, the damage that it can do, it can really leave the couple to be very hurt, because obviously you're not being validated, you're not being understood, you're both hurting each other. And then usually after the stonewalling is finished, it's swept under the carpet, and things resume, but the problem hasn't been resolved, or it hasn't been spoken about, hasn't been processed. Each party hasn't had the opportunity and the space to express their perspective, their point of view, and to have it understood by their spouse. Okay. So really it's harmful in the long term for the relationship. So there was a study about stonewalling. So in the Love Lab with the Gottmans, they've got a lab, but it's set up like an apartment. And that's where they invite couples in there to stay a couple of days or a week or so. And it's like a bed and breakfast type of apartment. But the only difference is they've got cameras, on the wall. They've got like those glass walls where the scientists can see through, but you can't see through it. And they were monitoring their heart rates throughout their stay there. So they're monitoring their stress levels. There was blood samples and urine samples, and all these other wires connected to them. So that way they can monitor, what's happening on a physiological level during discussions, during conflict, and even during, positive moments, what's happening to the body when positive things are being said. So what they would do is when a couple would conflict and fight, and it becomes escalated, and their heart rates have increased above 100 beats a minute, they pretended to interrupt the couple and say that there's an issue with the equipment. There's some faulty equipment, and they need to fix it. So they told them to stop talking, just to take a break, and while they fix the equipment. So it took about 20 to 30 minutes until their heart rates decreased, and they told them to resume their discussion. So when they started talking again, their heart rates were significantly lower, and the interaction was much, much more positive in round 2 than it was in round 1, and how it would have ended in round 1 as well. So it was much more productive. So what happened in that half an hour? Each partner, without them even knowing it, was physiologically soothing themselves. Okay, they were reading a magazine. They were not, they just avoided the discussion. So they calmed down, and once they felt calm, they were able to return in a respectful and rational way. So the way to prevent stonewalling, or what to do when stonewalling is creeping in, is to call a timeout, is to take a break. You shouldn't be talking to each other in that state. It's only going to escalate, and it's going to get much, much, much worse. Okay. Now, how to take a break. This is a sensitive topic, or a sensitive skill, because you can really abuse this skill. If you're an abusive person, or you're just a negative person, and you don't have the ability to have that positive perspective of your spouse, then you shouldn't be doing marriage in general, right? You shouldn't be doing this. So you need to be making sure that you're doing this with the right intentions and the proper way. So the bad way is to take a break from the marriage, like silent treatment, because it can easily cross over. I'm taking a break, but what's happening during that break is that it looks like it's a break from the marriage, not a break from the discussion, right? And now you're going back to silent treatment again. So what to do how to take a break. Step one is to express how you feel, and that is, you feel overwhelmed, right? You say, honey, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I feel overwhelmed. Okay. That's step one. Step two is, you mention how long you need a break for. So you say, I need to take a break. I need to take a 45-minute break. Okay, that's step two. Step three is reassurance. Now, if your partner is anxiously attached, so they have an anxious attachment style, and many people are. So what that is if you walk away from a conflict, the person who has an anxious attachment style may become activated and triggered, and they might act a little bit erratic, more angry, more, like lashing out, or they might chase you, they might stop you. They want to sort out the problem there and then. There might be even a fear of abandonment being triggered. I see this many, many times with my clients. The partner A, during stonewalling, will pick up their keys and say, I don't need this crap, I'm leaving, right? He means I'm leaving this argument, but the person with a fear of abandonment becomes activated and triggered and believes that they're going to be abandoned, right? Maybe they were abandoned when they were younger by their parents, or a previous relationship, or what have you. So it's important to give reassurance in this stage, step three. So you can say something like, I love you. I still love you. I love you. We disagree. We're not seeing eye to eye, but I love you. Or if you're too heated to say that, you can say, I value our marriage more than this argument, this disagreement that we're having. Or I don't want to say something to hurt you. I don't want to say something regretful that I will regret later on. And, I need to take this break. What you do on that break is you do not think about the conflict, so that way you're like gaining ammunition, you're reloading, so you're not thinking like, oh, how dare he say that to me, and how dare she's pull that one on me, and I don't deserve this, and don't have that. You just distract yourself completely. Read a book, wash your face. If you're standing, sit. If you're sitting, lay down, take a walk. Leave the room where your spouse is, though, if you could, and just distract yourself. Do some breathing, because usually when you're flooded, you start to shallow breathe, or you're not breathing properly at all. Take some deep breaths in and deep breaths out, and that's what you do when you're on that break. Don't, every time the thought comes to you, just redirect your thoughts to something else and distract yourself. If you're on this break and you're just thinking, you're going to come back even worse. Okay, so that's why it's a very sensitive skill, this one. And so the next step is, if you called the break, it's a responsibility of the person who called the timeout to come back. Now, if you want to ruin your marriage, you want to break trust, you want to destroy trust, then be someone who is not trustworthy. That means that if you say, look, I need a break 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and you don't come back, in that moment, you're destroying trust, because you're showing that you are not trustworthy. You're not accountable. right? You're not honest. You don't keep your word. So when you come back, in that moment, you're building trust, right? And then if you keep on doing this, if couples keep on doing this, they actually start to, feel that their partner will come back and they'll be less anxious. Okay. Um, and, you start again. You try again. You try all the skills. You don't criticize. You don't attack. You just try again. Most of the times when you come back, and I've seen it works like magic. When you come back from your break, um, it's like two new couples, right? Round two would always be better than round one. Okay. And you try again. Now there's some questions that are asked, during this break, can we still talk? The answer is yes. You're on a break from the discussion, not from the marriage. Okay. Minimum, I would say 30 minutes, and maximum is 24 hours. Remember, you're not on a break from the relationship. You're on a break from the discussion, right? The reason why we say, I mean, this goes against the myth, really, that the sun shouldn't set upon an argument. That shouldn't go to bed angry. Yes, it's one of those ones. So sometimes if you're arguing at 11 p.m., you can't take an hour break and come back and then discuss again. It's going to be 1 a.m. and you got work at 4 a.m. It's just not practical. So you might have to say, let's sleep on it today, honey, babe, whatever, and we'll return to this another time. So maximum is 24 hours. Now, if you absolutely cannot do 24 hours, then the next convenient time available, right? If you got work and you're working, both of you are working 5 days and you really don't have that time, then the next weekend, right? But that doesn't mean, and I reiterate, you're not breaking from the marriage. You're not stonewalling. You're not giving a silent treatment, and you're not stonewalling each other. You're breaking from the discussion. And the question I get all the time is, what if I'm not flooded, but my partner is flooded? It's not helpful to say, you're flooded, take a break, right? That's criticism. You call a timeout for you. Okay, you just call a timeout for yourself, and that'll de-escalate the conflict. It's not helpful to tell your partner, that they need to take a break and they're flooded and stuff like that. So I hope you found this video to be helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.